Hey guys, Magenta's back here today again with another Future Card Buddyfight deck profile. And as mentioned in the previous video of my box opening, if you haven't checked it out, you can. The link is in the description. You may check it out. Anyway, today's deck will be on one of my favorite decks of Dragon World. It's gonna be a life gain deck. It's not meta deck, but it's really fun to play with. When you see your opponent, that rage in your opponent when they realize that they can't deal actual damage to you because you can gain a shit ton of life with this deck. Yeah, so without further ado, let's get on with the deck profile. So our buddy monster here is Blue Sky Knight's Drum the Tempest. A long time ago, Blue Sky Knights was pretty cool. I made a deck profile back in the days. You can check out my deck profile. Anyway, the new Blue Sky Knight's Drum, it's really strong now. So put up to one hand card into this card soul and pay 2 gauge. So that's the only downside, because you have to put a hand card into this card soul, which is not desirable, but it's good to get this started. So it's 6k power, 1 crit, 4k defense. The stats seem like trash to begin with, but when you check out the ability, you will feel that it's really solid. When you gain life, put the top card of your deck into this card's soul, and you gain 1 life and draw a card. This ability activates once per turn. This card gets power 2k, 1 crit for each of its soul. Move, double attack, soul guard. So basically, after you stack up Drum as a monster with like 5 souls, you can double attack opponent for 6 crits. And power is not an issue if they have a strong tanky monster. Like having 5 souls is enough to give it like 16k power, which is enough to destroy most of the things today. Yeah, I mean, when Lost World comes out, then it's another issue altogether, but pretty cool Drum. So the main part of this ability is it's only once per turn, so you want to have things that allow you to gain life during your turn and during your opponent's turn, so that you can draw and gain life consistently. So that's the gist of the deck. Okay, moving on to the size 2 monsters. We run 4 copies of our buddy monster, Blue Sky Knight's Drum the Tempest. Solid card. 4 copies, maximize consistency. So the next 2 cards we run is also Drum. Future powers, Drum the Future Limit Break. Call cost, put 1 or more monsters from your field into this card's soul and pay 2 gauge. When this card link attacks, destroy all cards on your opponent's field, draw cards and deal damage to your opponent equal to the number of cards destroyed. 11k power, 3 crits, 4k defense. It's a really solid card when you're falling behind your opponent. Use this, you link attack. Doesn't matter with whatever, just link attack. You can destroy everything on his field and you can give yourself advantage. And it's called cost, right? Put 1 or more monsters from your field into this card. So basically, if you need a strong tank monster, you can call 3 size 1s and put all of them into this card soul, and then you can tank for a few turns before you can set up your combo with Drum the Tempest. Really solid, and yeah, works well against set spell opponents as well. So 6 size 2s, that's all we need. Moving on to the size 1 monsters. Firstly, we run the supporter for Drum, Comrade, Systemic Dagger Dragon, 4 copies. Put the top card of your deck into this card's soul and pay 1 gauge. When this card attacks you, if you have another monster with Systemic or Drum, destroy a monster on your opponent's field and gain 2 life. 3k power, 2 crits, 1k defense. So on your turn, when this card attacks, you gain 2 life, and then you can activate the Blue Sky Knight's Drum the Tempest ability and give it a soul and draw 1 free card. Pretty solid, and it's an additional part where you can destroy a monster on your opponent's field. That's pretty good too. You can rush the center while clearing his monsters. It's a win-win situation. And if you are unlucky and you didn't draw into a Drum, you can call 3 of these and gain 6 life and destroy 3 monsters on your opponent's field, which is pretty awesome. 4 copies. Really like that card a lot. It's really hard to find. For some reason, I can't like I opened like 2 boxes and I couldn't find it in the packs, so I had to go to the shop to buy it. Well, okay. Anyway, next, we have 4 copies of 5th Omni Cavalry Dragon, Elliot SD. This card cannot be called to the center. When this card enters the field, put up to 1 monster with drum from your drop zone into your hand. Basically, both your size 2s work. You have this and this. When you take damage, gain 1 life for this turn, give an armor dragon a field +1 crit and penetrate. This ability only activates once per turn. So why are we running the 5th Omni cards? Because, firstly, this is drum retriever, so if you charge your drum into a gauge and then you pick the gauge, you can call this card and retrieve the drum, basically giving yourself a free card, which is good. And penetrate is really good because this drum stacks up to high crits, so if they try and tank it out with monsters with many souls in the center, you can basically give it penetrate and deal damage to your opponent. So you may then ask, how do we activate this? Basically, we run other 5th Omni things as well to take damage, so that this card is actually not a useless card. So the first point of it being a drum retriever is already good enough to run at 4 copies. Moving on to our other size ones, we run 2 copies of this ancient card, HEB04. I actually can't see this. Anyway, it's a really old double rare, 0005 EN double rare. Drum Bunker Dragon SD, Armor Dragon, Red Dragon. So, trash stats, 3k power, 2 crits, 1k defense. However, it's pretty cool ability. When a monster with drum and its card name enters your field, if this card is in a drop zone, pay 1 gauge, you may put this card into the soul of that card or call it. Basically, when you call a size 2 drum, say you call it to the center, and then you have to put a hand card and pay 2 gauge. So if this card is already in the drop zone, you can pay 1 gauge, and you can either put it into its soul, basically drum will have 2 souls, or you can call it if you don't have another size 1, so it can serve as an extra attacker. So pretty solid, and we just run 2 copies because it only activates once per turn, so you can just, you only need 1 in the drop zone, so 2 is just to increase the chances of it being in the drop zone. Okay, moving on. More life gain. 2 copies of Blue Sky Knight's Systemic Dagger Dragon. When another monster with either Systemic or Blue Sky Knights enters your field, gain 1 life and draw a card. So it works with your Systemic Commander Dragon. Oops, I mean this Comrade Systemic Dragon. Systemic Commander Dragon is another card. So when you have this and you call this, you can draw a card, gain life, which will basically give yourself free plus over and over again. And Blue Sky Knight's drum is Blue Sky Knight, so it activates this card ability as well. And the next card that we have here, Blue Sky Knight's Slangy Dragon. When this card enters the field, if you do not have a monster in the center, you gain 1 life, 4k power, 1 crit, 2k defense. So this works with this as well, to cycle your deck and gain life and draw into your combo pieces. So that's the Blue Sky Knight's package, 4 copies. And lastly, for the size 0s, we run 2 copies of Boomerang Dragon Returns. At the end of the battle with this card, you put a hand card into your gauge and draw a card. And return it to your hand. Basically, after you attack with it, you can return it to your hand by performing a charge and draw. So you take one of your hand cards, put it into the gauge, and then you can draw a card. So you can perform a charge and draw, which is free gauge, and you can return this to your hand. So every turn, if you have like one of this on your field, you can just get a free gauge. Gauge is actually quite heavy in this deck because drum requires 2 gauge. The other drum also requires 2 gauge, and you have cards like Systemic Dagger Dragon. Yeah, basically just a free attack anyway. 3k power, 1 crit. Lastly, we run 1 Omni Lord here, Undying Wise King Countdown. At the beginning of each player's attack phase, if this card is in the drop zone, pay 1 life, call this card from the drop zone. 4k power, 1 crit, 1k defense. Basically, it's at the beginning of each player's attack phase. During your opponent's attack phase, like say you attack with this during your turn, and then he bombs it with like Hiding Bomber. So during the next turn, during your opponent's attack phase, you can call it back again. And why is that helpful? Because when another monster in your field will be destroyed by your opponent's card, you may put this card from the field into a drop zone. If you do, that monster remains on the field. Basically, if they attack your drum, you can sacrifice this card and protect your drum. which is really good, and it will force them to attack this card first. So if you ever played Hearthstone, this is essentially a taunt minion. Yeah, so that's it for the monsters. Moving on to the spells, we run 2 copies of Buttsack's Link. Really expensive card. I mean, I'm just putting it here for fun. I'll probably transfer it to another deck some other day. You may only cast this card if your cards attack 3 or more times this turn. Look at 3 cards from the top of your deck and put 1 into your hand, put the rest into your gauge and gain 1 life. Basically, you can search your deck for stuff and get free gauge and gain 1 life. So the main part of this is you can gain life and activate Drum's ability if you are unfortunate and you didn't draw into the monsters that activate his skills. And of course, because we run impact cards, this can help us search up for the impact cards as well. Next, 2 copies of Dragoborn. You may only cast this card if you do not have a monster in center. Choose a monster in your field. The next time it will be destroyed, you gain 2 life and it remains on the field. Basically, this works well with Drum. So because Drum has the move ability, you can call it onto the right, and you can cast Dragoborn before you declare the move. So basically, Drum can survive and you gain 2 life, and then the move. What am I saying? So basically, Drum gets an additional life and you gain 2 life from it. Moving on, 2 copies of Dragonic Aura. You may only cast this card with your weapon equipped. Put 2 cards from the top of your deck into your gauge and you gain 1 life. Another Drum activator by giving 1 life and gauge charger as well. 2 copies of Green Dragon Knight's Song of Ancient Land. Pay 1 gauge. When your Armor Dragon enters the field, you gain 1 life. You may only have 1 of these on your field, otherwise it will be too OP. Anyway, all of these cards are Armor Dragons, which is the very first attribute that the Dragon Mode started with. I mean, there's like Sun Dragons now, but it all began with the Armor Dragons. 2 copies of Flying Dragon Shield, also another old card. You may only cast this card if you would be dealt damage from an attack and you do not have a monster in the center. Pay 1 gauge. That damage is reduced to 0 and you gain 1 life. Note that this can only be used for damage dealt from an attack. Impact damage do not work, but we use it because it gives you life. And gives you life, and very little cards actually do that. So we have the original 4 Green Dragon Shield, nullify the attack and gain 1 life. And with that we have 6 copies that give you life by nullifying or reducing the damage to 0. Moving on to the 5th Omni support, which we mentioned. Pay 1 gauge and you take 1 damage. Destroy a monster on your opponent's field. Then if you have a monster with Drum on its card name on your field, deal 2 damage to your opponent. You may only cast this once per turn. So you can activate the take 1 damage, and then you can trigger your Elliot and also trigger your item, which we haven't talked about, but it's the 5th Omni item. So basically gives you advantage. And lastly, you can deal 2 damage to your opponent if you have a Drum. So it works with the size 1 Drum Bunker Dragon SD as well. So overall, yeah, might serve as a good surprise to your opponent. Like, say your turn is ending, but you can, like, the end of your battle phase, you can cast this and deal 2 damage to your opponent. Such as like a mini impact. Moving on, actually my favorite card in the deck. It's pretty troll, because counter, gain 2 life, then if you have 5 life or less, or a card with Dragonite Heal in your drop zone, you gain 3 life. So 1 card for 5 life, if you have 5 or less. So basically you want to cast the first one when you're at 5 or less, so that you heal to 10, and then once you have the first one in the drop zone, you can cast the other 3 to give yourself like 20 life in total. So this will actually scare your opponent when you have all 4 Dragonite Heal pluses. Yeah, so they will be sad. They'll be scared. They'll be like, oh my god, how do I deal 20 damage to him? So that's the main mind games of the deck. So moving on to our items, we run 4 copies of 5th Omni Dragon Sword, Drago Brave. Put a hand card into this card so and pay 1 gauge, take 1 damage. This card can attack even if you have Armor Dragon in the center. When you take damage, put the top card of your deck into your gauge, gain 1 life, and then draw a card if it's your turn. 5k power, 3 crits. So this is really good because when you are against a rush opponent without penetrate, you can call your Drum the Future limit break with like 3 souls into your center, and then this can serve as your extra attack in addition to your Boomerang Dragon. Otherwise, it's just a good card to have because when you take damage, you can get free pluses. Solid. And lastly, for our impact cards, 2 copies of Gargantuar Punisher, which is the good old Dragon Ball impact from the dawn of time. So another card which I wanted to mention is Into the Future. I didn't include it in the deck, but it would be pretty good because when you drop a soul, you can stand a card in your field and you can draw a card. So basically, if your drum is stacked up with like 6 crits, you can double attack with 6 crits, and then you can stand it again to attack with like 5 crits, which is basically it does a lot of damage depending on the number of souls that your drum have. Alternatively, you can use it to stand drum after it has been rested by like Snake Gaze, for example. So after it's been rested, you can stand it and you can do the double attack. Overall, a really solid card to have, but I chose not to run it. There's limited space in the deck, but I'm sure you can like cut some of the monsters or some of the spells. Dragonite Heal Plus, you could probably cut that and replace it with Into the Future. So that is it for the live game deck profile. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like down below to show me some support. And if you're new to my channel, subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified about my new videos. And yeah, if you're enjoying my video so far, do recommend it to your friends as well. I enjoy what I'm doing. And yeah, the next video will be on my new deck, Thunder X Agito. It's the new Ace deck featuring as a rush deck, or alternatively you could play it as control as well, featuring many size ones. And the new mechanic, which is called D share, all cards with D share get the following D. So basically the monsters, the size 1 monsters, they can share their abilities with one another. And it's pretty good, pretty consistent as well because it's Ancient World. Ancient World has the standard Dragon Emperor Legend and your Divine Dragon Creation, in addition to new spells which add on to the draw power, which actually makes this deck pretty cool. So stay tuned to my channel for that video, and I hope to see you guys there. Goodbye, take care.